Miss Sarah Jackson, please come up. My sister. Where do you want to put that? How handy is that? We're going to do a little sound check. Just do a little rap or something.
Oh, no, that's not going to be good for anyone.
It's not good for anyone.
Does it sound okay? Okay, definitely not rapping because I can't do that. See?
Okay, so this sister, I was at a dinner with Fatouma and Meg 6 weeks ago, and a friend of ours who's not here tonight told us a story. We were having dinner and she said, "Oh my gosh, Sarah, do you know Sarah Jackson?" I'm like, "No." And she freaked out. She was like, "You have to know Sarah Jackson." And she told us, she planted some seeds of stories. And I had a moment that I have had many times in my life when I know that connection is one of like goosebumping destiny. And so literally the next day I tracked her down, Sarah Jackson, Casa de Paz, connect for more information. And anyway, thus started this email, phone, just series of exchanges that I've got to get to her story. But the seed I want to plant with that is some connections in life just get planted in your lap like a diamond. And that is Sarah Jackson for me and for all of us and for the world. I'm honored to know you, and please share. She has 5 minutes to share a glimpse of Sarah Jackson. But don't worry. In August, she's going to be our headliner for the whole time, okay? So this is to make us want more and just introduce one of my heroes to y'all. So I love you. And Sarah Jackson, everyone.
Well, I am actually not going to say pretty much anything about me for these next 5 minutes because I want to share a story of an immigrant who came to the United States, much like Fatouma, and I'm very thankful that there are people in our community who welcome immigrants and refugees and asylum seekers and do so with open arms. And even though we may not speak the same language or eat the same foods or whatever, we can, at the end of the day, all get along. About 15, well, maybe not even 15, about 10 minutes away from here, there's an immigrant detention center. And this is a for-profit prison that detains both asylum seekers who have fled their home countries like Fatouma and, I'm so sorry for Almas. So refugees and asylum seekers both come to the United States because it's simply too dangerous to stay home. They can't. If Fatouma had not run, like she said, she could have been dead. And we would have never had the privilege of hearing her story or laughing alongside of her, crying with her. Oftentimes, immigrants are not welcomed, though, when they arrive to the United States. My friend who stayed at Casa de Paz with me, which is my home, we open up our home for asylum seekers and immigrants who have been detained and released from the detention center here in Aurora. This happened a few months ago. We had a young woman stay in our home who fled Central America because she had actually been raped multiple times by multiple men and had contracted HIV. And it was no longer safe for her to stay in her home country. So she fled. She ran, like I would have done, and I'm sure like most of you would have done. She spent several months by foot, by horse, by train, by bus to get from Central America to the United States, where she voluntarily turned herself in to the Border Patrol agents and said, "I'm here requesting asylum, and I'm crossing with my 7-year-old daughter. She's in danger as well." Our government's response to this mom was to shackle her, put her in handcuffs, and remove her from her daughter forcibly. She told me that her daughter was clinging onto her shirt so tightly that when she was separated, that her shirt tore. Her daughter was holding onto her so tightly. Her daughter was sent to a detention center where children are being held. And the mother was transferred here to Aurora, Colorado. She had no one in the state that she could call, or had no one that she knew living in. She didn't even know where Colorado was. She didn't. She heard, oh, you're going to be transferred from the border where you just crossed to this state called Colorado. Okay, what does that mean? Where am I? Thankfully, there are good people like the people in this room who care about parents being separated from their children and said, no, we won't stand for this. So we raised bond money last summer to bond this mother out of the detention center and free her so she could reunite with her daughter. And it was a pretty desperate situation because her daughter had just celebrated her 8th birthday in detention. And so this mom, from the second she was released from the detention center, was on a one-track mission to find where her daughter was being detained and get her out of prison so they could be together again. But like I said, when she was released from the detention center, she had no one she could call. Hey, I'm free, come pick me up. No one. And even if she had someone she knew in Denver, she didn't have a phone. She didn't have any money. She was literally released through the back door of the prison, wandering aimlessly on the streets of East Colfax. But thankfully, there are people who care. And our volunteers at Casa de Paz, we go over to the detention center every day, and we pick up men and women who have been released from that detention center, and we bring them over to Casa de Paz. It's about 15 minutes away. It's a regular home. It's not as beautiful as this home, but it is a home. And you're going to have to come show me how to decorate sometime. In fact, it was funny, when I first started Casa de Paz about 7 years ago, it was literally all gray and white. Everything was gray and white. And my friend came over and said, Sarah, this place looks like a prison. I thought, oh no, that's not what I want. So we have some color in there now. But we brought this mom to our home. And what we offer at Casa de Paz is just we're a quick pit stop from detention to their family. So in the home, we have a phone that they can use to call their family and friends. We have meals that they can enjoy, a healthy meal. And then once they have a plane ticket or a bus ticket purchased, our volunteers will pick them up from the casa and bring them to the airport or to the bus station. It's nothing remarkable. It's nothing miraculous. It's something that we would do for our friend if we knew they were in town and needed a ride or needed a place to sleep. But it's important. And it sends the message that people belong here, even if you weren't born here. And that we want you here, and we're better because of you. So thank you for sharing your stories with us.
Sarah, real quick, will you tell the story about, because it reminded me about the drive, the fella who, okay.
Yeah, so we had a gentleman who, one of our volunteers, Greg, actually, Daniel, who you'll meet soon, one of our volunteers, Greg, picked up a gentleman who had just been released from the detention center, and all he did was give this guy a ride from the detention center to the Sikh temple about 20 minutes away. And during that ride, this gentleman who had just been released, his eyes were just bright and wide and looking around at all of these things he hadn't seen. Because in the detention center, the windows are covered up. You cannot see outside. You can't go outside, much less even just see outside. So during this 20-minute ride, he was just looking out the window, just taking it all in. And when Greg dropped him off at the Sikh temple, he looked over and said, "Thank you for this ride. I will thank God for you every day of my life." And I believe it. And these immigrants that I have had the honor of meeting have taught me that it's those simple things that we take for granted so often. A long hug, a smile, a ride, something that, an unexpected moment of kindness, that those are really the things that will matter and that we should be thankful for. For every day of his life, he said, "I'll thank God for you." I love that. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
So the question is, does Casa de Paz also work with the legal process of getting someone released from the detention center, working with immigration lawyers? We do a lot of working in conjunction with a wonderful nonprofit called the Rocky Mountain Immigrant and Advocacy Network, and they do all of the pro bono legal services for immigrants detained. And we also partner, or we know of a lot of the immigration lawyers who may have a client who needs a sponsor. And so through our community, we'll get that word out. Martin, is it okay if I say just 2 seconds? So Martin is actually an asylum seeker from Cameroon, Africa, and we began visiting Martin while he was in detention. He was held for about 9 months before he was released. And the two of the visitors who met Martin through our visitation program just took an extreme liking to him, which is not difficult to do because he's a very likable fellow. And when he was released from the detention center, he didn't have friends or family that he could call anywhere in the United States. And Darren and Sarah opened their doors to their home, and now Martin lives with them. And so it's, maybe we provide mostly that quick pit stop for our guests, but some of the relationships are very long-term like this. Yeah. You're welcome.